Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Cole from TacSim Media Group. We're here at the 2024 SHOT Show with John. He is a retired, or he was previously a ICE agent for the federal government. Let me go ahead and just start off by asking you how many years. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
So my name is John Fabbricatore. I did 30 years with the government. I started with the United States Air Force, became a federal agent with Immigration Naturalization Service, moved over to Immigration Customs Enforcement, retired last year as the director of all of Colorado and Wyoming for ICE ERO, Enforcement Removal Operations. And after I retired, I decided I wasn't done, giving my life to the United States. I've done that for the last 30 years. Just couldn't sit on the couch in retirement, so I decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wanted to bring that up. He's going to be running in Colorado for Congress. He's pro, Second Amendment. He's obviously a true American. I'm really excited to actually do this interview because I feel our biggest threat is at the border.
Yes.
And I truly sometimes have nightmares as if it's really happening with an internal invasion. How real is that threat?
Well, the threat's real because we don't know who's coming over the border right now. I mean, when you look at the people that are coming over, we're not just talking about South Americans. So my partner also retired from ICE. We formed a consulting group, and we've been down the border 7 times since we retired.
Wow.
And the last 2 times we went down to Lukeville, Arizona. We went into the desert, into Organ Pipe National Monument, and within 30 minutes we came across over 130 Africans. Not people from South America, people from Africa, from Mauritania, from Ghana, from Sudan, from Uganda. We were coming across these people and we started to ask them questions. We fell into our old ICE role, we were ICE agents, we're gonna start asking questions. So we started moving them against the fence line, talking to them, and the reasons they were giving us for wanting to come here weren't real asylum reasons. They were coming over for economic benefit. They wanted to make more money. And that's not an asylum claim. But this administration is just letting people come in, and they're giving them these court dates years down the line. And so they're not getting in front of a judge till 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road. And we don't know who they are. When they come over from Africa, they're just giving a name and date of birth to a Border Patrol agent. They drop their documents on the Mexico side. So they come over, they don't have a passport, they don't have an ID. A Border Patrol agent is just saying, what's your name and date of birth, and writing down exactly what they're being told.
This isn't really a Democratic or Republican problem. This is an everyday American problem. And it's sad that it's became a political controversy on almost every election year, but it's really about the true safety of every American.
Exactly. Look, when you have millions of people come over, now, I'm not saying that every person coming across the border is a killer and a thief and a thug. A lot of people are coming over here for economic reasons because they look at America, and look, America is the greatest place in the world, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're veterans. We served this country for a reason because it's a great country.
Yes.
And we understand that other people want to come here, right?
Yes.
But you've got to do it legally, and we've got to know who you are before you come over that line. And what we really have to look at is when you have 7 million people just come over and we don't know who they are and they're not all bad, if 1% of that 7 million is bad, that's still 70,000 people that could potentially be really, really bad criminals.
Absolutely.
And that's still what's the number that you think you're comfortable with for bad people being allowed to come into this country?
0.
0.
Yeah.
That should be the answer.
Yeah.
And if we're vetting people and we know who's coming across, we have a better chance at getting that down to 0.
Absolutely. I have a young daughter, and I'll tell you this right now. There's nothing more creepier than going to a grocery store and seeing a man from Honduras or somebody that doesn't speak the same type of language and is giving your daughter, because you can't really say, hey dude, what are you looking at? It's more of like you're trying to give them the signal, hey, give this, stop that look. And remember, we're accepting people from different cultures who may not understand that the legal age is 18, and that's the standard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Their standard is whenever they feel the woman is ready, or the young girl is ready. And so that causes a problem with the way that we live our life and our culture, correct?
Right. When you combine a lot of cultures really fast, it takes time for people to catch up. It takes time for them to catch up to our laws on what's allowed here in the United States. I mean, we see it with a lot of different people that we bring over, that there's this like cultural clash right away, right? Because they're coming from different places where, like you said, the laws may be different. Yeah. And they've now got to learn how to accept the laws in the United States. But when you come over breaking the law, you may continue to break that law. So you're breaking the law and getting IDs that you're buying somewhere, or not having a good social security number, so you go out and you buy one on the black market, or you're driving a car without registration or without a driver's license. Those laws continue to get broken, and people are like, oh, they're just small laws. No, all those small laws add up to bigger laws. Yeah. And even drunk driving, I mean, we see more instances of drunk driving because they don't understand the laws on that, where, hey, you can't be drinking all this, and you can't be jumping in a car which you don't have a registration or insurance or a driver's license and driving down the road.
I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and so I know Sheriff Lamb right now is he's also going to be running for political position. I forget what
Senate, I believe. Yep.
Senate, yep. And he recently lost his family members, yes. His son and his daughter-in-law and his grandchild to yes. a drunk driver, actually. Yes. And you brought up a great point, because if you were paying attention to what's going on the border, these people are coming intoxicated as coyotes with a pack full of 10, 20 people in a vehicle, mm-hmm. and then getting in these high-speed chases and drunk, and flipping the vehicle and putting everybody at risk.
Right.
And there's no way of tracking them, and it's a huge threat. And so my concern is how strong do you think the cartel is? Do you think they have a chance to invade us at a border town?
Yeah, so
armored vehicles, the 50 cal.
Well, I mean, we have a great military, great law enforcement, but it doesn't even have to be them coming in with armored vehicles and cars. Like, they've already invaded the United States by using fentanyl. Okay, so the Chinese sell the precursors of fentanyl to the cartels. The cartels then sell the fentanyl throughout the United States. We had over 100,000 people die last year from opioid overdoses. 70,000 of them, 70,000 plus of those were from fentanyl overdoses. And we're seeing a rise in that even now, with the amount of fentanyl that's brought into the United States, and different forms of fentanyl that are even 20 times stronger than fentanyl, that's killing more people. So that's an invasion in itself.
So I recently, like I told you, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been looking into the fentanyl and the opioid crisis for a very long time. I felt like it was a huge epidemic even in our military. In my opinion, overprescribed hardcore.
Yes.
And a lot of veterans fell victim to
opioid addictions and stuff.
Which leads to suicide a lot of the times, and that's another big problem. But the fentanyl is becoming, people have to understand that there's 200,000 Americans that died in World War I, and we're past that number.
Yeah.
But the fentanyl crisis,
mm-hmm.
and you're absolutely right, it's being used as a weapon. It's going for $1 a pill on the streets of Phoenix right now.
Yeah.
$1 a pill.
Yeah.
You don't even have to beg for money anymore to support your habit.
The scourge of fentanyl is really bad. So my partner John Martinez and I actually in September went and marched with parents for the Lost Voices of Fentanyl rally in Washington, D.C. 700 parents showed up in D.C. to march from the Washington Monument to the White House. And we marched through D.C. and we marched to the front of the White House with these 700 parents that had lost children to fentanyl. And many of those parents that we talked to lost children that were not drug addicts. They had taken some kind of a pill in college. They might have been partying one time, took a pill, had fentanyl, died immediately, overdose on one pill. They were studying for an exam, bought illegal Ritalin or something that they were trying to take to keep awake for their exams, died from an overdose of fentanyl. We marched to the White House. 700 parents stood in front of the White House, and no one from the administration came out to talk to them. No one from the mainstream media was out there to interview any of these parents. And my partner John Martinez and I were standing out there and just looking at this and thinking, how can no one from this administration be here to talk to these parents? How can no one from the mainstream media be out here to show all the pictures that they had brought? 70,000 people's young children's pictures that they had brought to this rally to show how many people had died, and no attention was paid to it.
Yeah, it blows my mind as a veteran on the focus that we have on Europe right now with Ukraine and stuff. the real threat is the southern border. Let me ask you a hard question. I've had this discussion with a lot of special operators or ex-special operators on how big of a mistake it was to take down El Chapo. See, because the rumor on the streets in Phoenix is that he said, if you expedite me to America, I will release the Blue Devil. And if you look at the timeline, that's kind of when the fentanyl kind of started to flood the streets, right?
So yeah, if you're going to do something, you need to do it to the end. So when we took El Chapo out of the equation, it allowed a lot of the other cartels to then start fighting with each other, wanting to make more money, sending more stuff over the border so they can make that money. Look, the cartels right now are making billions of dollars on human trafficking and drug trafficking.
Yeah.
They do human smuggling, human trafficking across the border. They're making billions on that. They're making billions on drug trafficking. If we're going to take care of this problem, it's got to be taken care of to the nth degree. Yeah. If we're going to go in there, we've got to tell Mexico, look, Mexico, we're not going to support you with economic, we're not going to give you money for your economy. We're not going to support you. We're not going to allow Americans to go down there and go on vacation and bolster your economy and give you billions of dollars a year, and economics and money into your economy until you end this problem, until we take care of the cartels. So we can't go in there and take one head of the snake out. It's got to be total, and we've got to go in there and take out everybody.
So how do we combat us being, because in order for there to be a supplier, there has to be a buyer.
There's a demand.
So how do we address that?
I mean, just like you said, look, opioids have been overprescribed for a long time.
Yes.
We need to look at alternative methods in order to get in and understand why our society is in this depressive state that they feel that they need these things to feel better about themselves. You go getting on opioids, taking fentanyl, they're paying all these different things. We've got to look at the root cause of why this is happening. And there are some alternatives that they're already looking at for veterans with some psilocybin, mushroom, different things where they can microdose and help veterans, and they're not getting them on these products. So we look at that and we look at, yes, there's this demand. That's the reason that the cartel can make billions of dollars. But we've also got to be hard on Mexico in order for Mexico to change. Because the billions that the cartel is making are making it into the pockets of those politicians. And unless we stand firm as a country and say, you need to stop this. And look, a strong, secure, good Mexico is good for the United States.
Absolutely.
The better Mexico is on our southern border, the better and more secure the United States is.
I agree with you, because they say the reason why America is as strong as it is because of the geographical setup. And so the thing is back to what you said we have to get more strict on with Mexico. What's your opinion with what Donald Trump said a few months back on airstrikes on known cartel positions?
Yeah, we need to get the buy-off on the Mexican government on that. I'm not big on just going in and constantly going to war to go to war's purpose. But if we can convince the Mexican government that this is in their best interest to get rid of the cartels, to go in there and let's do something about this, and then we make an investment in Mexico and say, Mexico, we will help. Now that you've gotten rid of this, we'll help build your economy up. Again, because the better South America is, the better it is for the United States. If we can get stronger economies in South America, you won't have people wanting to come to the United States for that economic value. Many of those countries have the resources down there, have great tourism, have the ability to be strong in their economies, but they have these other problems. They've got a lot of drug trafficking. They've got different cartels through the different countries. They have bad politicians, bad dictators like in Venezuela. But if the United States can help through that, if we can help in our own hemisphere and not be sending money to the Ukraine, but help where we sit, we're a stronger nation.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's why I bring that point up and I harp on that point, is that this isn't a Democratic or Republican problem. Most grown adults do not want to see children hurt. And when you have an open border, it becomes a floodgate for human sector, child trafficking, sex trafficking.
Yeah, I actually testified in front of Congress in July. I testified to the Judicial Committee about missing children from the border. So, we've had, 100,000 or more children come across the southern border. 85,000 plus are missing that Health and Human Services knows about, that they sent them off with non-governmental organizations who then put them with sponsors, and then they lost track of them after they got to the sponsors. 85,000 children. Now, when I say children, most of the ones that are missing are between 12 and 19 years old, but those are still between 12 and 19 years old that are not, our own government does not know where they are.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that. I actually believe I watched that because there was a woman that went down there that was, I believe, in the Child Protective Services. She was her voice was spoken very strongly, and she took the stand. And, she said, I went down there and I was disgusted with how we are pretty much operating in human trafficking.
Yes.
When it comes to sex trafficking children.
Yeah, I've actually put that on X, that I believe our own government has trafficked these children. Yeah. And bringing them from the border into the interior and then losing track of them, that's trafficking. Yeah. Okay? I mean, I don't know where these children are. Many of them could be in harm's way right now. They may be used in job labor, possibly in sex trafficking. Some of them may be out on the street being used as drug mules and I arrested a lot of juveniles that were selling drugs in Denver when I was over the ICE office. And the cartels would use the younger guys to sell dope, the guys that were 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 18 years old, because they knew if they got arrested, that they were going to go into the juvenile process and they'd be kicked right back out the door.
That's actually when I realized how powerful these cartels were. I compare them to the power that some of the terrorist organizations have in the Middle East. I actually witnessed a murder when I was a young kid. I saw a 14-year-old do a hit on a 16-year-old, and they used the 14-year-old on that pure fact that the 14-year-old is only going to do 4 years.
Right.
And you're right. So, and they also do it to desensitize them to murder. And that's whether they're American or from Mexico or Honduras. No 13-year-old should be put in that position.
Absolutely not. We should be protecting our children.
Yes. They are the future of the world tomorrow. Yes. And we have to get this border done. And I think I think it's time for the veteran community to take a stand. And
say, absolutely.
This is it. Even if it requires, us exercising our First and Second Amendment right by just going down there and bearing arms and just showing force. You know what I'm saying? Because this is going to start affecting our children, and our women and our children are going to be raped and suffer because of.
Yep, the first thing we need to do is we need to get this administration to shut the border down and enforce immigration law in the interior of the United States. That's why I'm running for Congress. I'm going to hold the government to that standard. I hope that everybody out there can look at John Fabbricatore, and even if you're not in my district, helping to support me and get me into Congress, I will fight for this to happen. I will fight for that border to be closed down, and I will fight for immigration law to be enforced. So I'm running in CD6, but you can still support me and get me into Congress. I'll be one more conservative voice for you in Congress.
Can you spell your last name?
Sure. It's F as in Frank, A-B-B-R-I-C-A-T-O-R-E, John Fabbricatore.
And we'll leave with this one more question. What are your thoughts with what Greg Abbott is doing down in Texas with pretty much taking the power from the federal government?
Yeah, he's doing what he has to do for his state, and a state should be allowed to protect itself. I think what the Supreme Court did right now was not the right decision, but I say turn it back on what the Supreme Court did, and every single sanctuary state that's in the United States, if Texas can't protect its border, then sanctuary states should not be allowed to ignore immigration law in the same way.
Yeah, I agree. And so, guys, I really appreciate it. Go and support this guy, especially you veterans. Go and support. We need more veterans in our political parties. And thank you for this time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.